Well, hey, good morning. Welcome to the BlueGamer Bluecast morning show. I, this morning, totally forgot to prepare the little read I do. Let me see how quickly I can pull it up without boring anyone. And it's almost like it's gone. Oh, there it is. Okay, because you got to hear this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BGBCMS, BlueGamer Bluecast morning show, the daily video game morning talk show where I, professional video game enthusiast of 30 plus years, Adam Blue, will cover news and industry insights along with what I've been getting into. Yeah, there we go. I got to keep that up. But yeah, good morning, everyone. Good to see everyone. Let me move this just a little bit. Yeah, so it's Thursday. We've had an interesting week. We had Hellblade 2 release, and it seemed pretty neat. I'm curious where the conversation is going to go even further with that in terms of visibility with Xbox, I guess, since, they've been needing that sort of first party big game. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what comes out of this. And IGN apparently bought a whole bunch of video game outlets, media coverage outlets. And because of that, there's redundancies and people being laid off. And this is one of those things where it's, we had, especially all year, these video game outlets kind of condemn video game publishers for laying off people. And then, I guess not realizing, as much as we don't like this, it is a reality that we need to prepare for in this life. Something I've dealt with many times. And then they get laid off, and it's kind of sad. I hope so. What's cool about it though is a lot of these people in these media outlets that got laid off have an opportunity because they've had a following. Hopefully, there's a way they can keep going. Maybe do some sort of Patreon, where until they maybe find another full-time job that they can at least maybe get some help along the way. It's kind of crazy everything that's going on. I really think that's the direction video games, journalism, and media needs to go anyway, is where it's people doing it on their own, not worrying about a larger corporation kind of controlling that. So, again, shout out to all those that have, lost their jobs. So let's get into some, well, first I'll talk, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but in terms of what I was playing yesterday, just some more V-Rising. It's a lot of fun. In fact, what was interesting, and I keep coming across this while I'll play, and then I'll feel like I'm stuck. I'm like, man, that boss is too hard. I don't have enough to do this. But then there's always something else to do. They've really nailed down that loop of, is there something to upgrade? Is there a boss to hunt? Is there a place I can loot and then recycle? So it's all these different systems that you can kind of play with. Like even yesterday, I spent a lot of time in my castle just kind of messing around with different materials I have, making things. It's very interesting. The game has a really good loop, even though I find the combat boring and not boring, but frustrating because it's cooldown based instead of like Twitch action. But well, anyway, let's look at some news here. There is some things I came across. And something I actually want to get into is like the rest of the games coming out this summer to look forward to. So here's an interesting article I found. Let me screen share that. This is gamers have become less interested in strategic thinking and planning. Now, I read through this, and they even have charts and graphs showing, male and female. They take into account the date. So apparently for like 9 years, they were able to get data from, I think, 1.7 million gamers. Yeah. And there's a couple of things I find interesting about this is like if we were to look at did I not keep it up? Okay, I guess I deleted it. I had this thing up just showing how year over year more people by the millions, tens of millions are playing video games. It's constantly growing, right? So you have a constantly growing market. And then you have games that are like strategy games, which in my opinion, and this is what it is. You never see like a big publisher come out with like a strategy game. You kind of do, I guess, like 2K in the Civilization. But I'm talking like overall the strategy game being relevant. And I guess my point I'm trying to get to is I think it still is. What we're seeing when they're showing these graphs is and what they're not taking into account is as the gaming industry grows, it will look like certain silos are shrinking and maybe not worth it, but that's not the case. It's just that there's a larger pool of people to market to because, video games are, there was a time I think in the 80s and early 90s where video games were like a thing in terms of you played games or you didn't play games. Nowadays, it's just more of when people are looking for something to do, kind of like Netflix or YouTube, they might want to play FIFA or might want to play Total War, and so I think, and that's the other thing too, is if a developer that wants to make a game regardless of the market makes a game and it happens to be strategy and it hits, it's going to do well. So what they're trying to say is, the other part too is that as I think we move forward in video game playing and the barriers to entry, which are very minimal, what we're doing is we are getting smarter gamers that are playing earlier. Just think of like me playing Mario when I was 10 versus my son making a VR game at 10. The tools we have almost sort of make people think they don't want strategy, but it's more of the tools in place have allowed them to overcome that strategy. So then when, they're asking these players about if they like certain strategy components or not, and they're saying no, I think a lot of it is because they're not realizing how modern strategy games have been able to sort of build in some of those components that make it seem like it would be like example is the first Warcraft. You couldn't select all the units. You had to specifically click a unit and click where to go. But now in RTS games, you can click, drag, and select them all. You know what I mean? It's almost like that takes away that time management because you can select all. That and just compound that sort of technology integrated in strategy games over time. Anyway, I thought this would be interesting because like maybe this explains why we're not getting a Command and Conquer new one, but that's not it. It's because these Command and Conquers have been made by EA and they're not that great. And a lot of times you have other companies having to then make these RTS games, and so it makes the publishers think, oh, people don't want strategy games. But it's just not true. Anyway, I just thought that was very interesting because, again, I thought, okay, this is going to talk about, but the more I looked at it and then I see the inflation of gamers coming into gaming and the way the technology evolves, it's like, that's not really true. It's just the market is growing, so it seems like that is shrinking. Anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay. This other one, the biggest games to play in summer 2024, obviously showing Star Wars Outlaws. That one, I hope, is good, but we'll see. Let's actually just jump into, okay, June 4th, which is coming up soon. Destiny 2, The Final Shape. Not sure if I'm going to play that. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So this is another one of those, asymmetric horror games, multiplayer horror games, which are pretty fun. It's just, you see something like Dead by Daylight, and then I think a lot of companies are like, oh, let's do that. The classic. We got the Evil Dead game, which I thought was great, but it's almost like they make these things that it's interesting because they make something that is multiplayer, but because of kind of how it is with multiplayer, it inevitably just dies because there's only so long that they can support that sort of system without pumping a lot of money into it, and they can't pump a lot of money into it. But they could have made a single-player game which would probably have the same lifespan, but then it would probably have longer-lasting potential because it's a single-player, or not that it has to be single-player, but have a story campaign experience. And it was interesting, like with Friday the 13th, I remember how excited people were. That game came out, people liked it, and then it kind of, I think it got shut down already. So as much as that sort of game type is cool, let's see, 3 players or roles of the alien hunters to capture and kill 7 human survivors. I do like that. That's a large amount though. That is pretty cool. 3 on 7. I also played the Predator game, and that was actually pretty fun too. But that's the thing, like these are cool ideas, but I feel like the concept themselves are so big that the game comes out being kind of small. I don't know. Dead by Daylight must have done something right, and I gotta get into that. Let's see. Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree, June 21st. Of course, this is the main one I'm waiting for. Can't wait to play it. I am so glad. It seems like there's not much more to play, and I didn't even think about this, but how much have like publishers and developers planned around not releasing their game during this period? Because okay, June 21st, and then let's see, we got a week or so later is a Final Fantasy game, which yeah, this is one of these where if you're playing it, you're gonna play this anyway. So that I don't think that necessarily Elden Ring wouldn't necessarily eat into this. So yeah, then we get a whole nearly 2 months later with Frostpunk 2, which is a completely different genre. It's actually strategy, like we were just talking about. Because, again, I don't think it's that gamers don't care about strategy. I just think amongst the things that you like in a game, sometimes you don't realize you're doing the strategy. Whatever. I played this first one, and I thought it would be for me, but I couldn't get into it. I might have to try it again. Let's see. Cat Quest 3. Wow, another cat game. I remember hearing about this. Would I play it? I don't know. Okay, Black Myth Wukong. For sure I'm going to play this. I think they've showed this for a couple of years now, and it looks excellent. Awesome graphics. Looks like it has fun combat. Yeah, I would love to try that. And then, yeah, Star Wars Outlaws on my birthday. How cool is that? Yeah, so I should take the day off and just play this the entire day. Yeah, I'm hoping it's good, but that's the thing, like, and this is a positive, like, Ubisoft makes games that are fun to play, generally. So I'm thinking this is going to be good. Yeah, because it's even made by the Division people. They know how to make tight combat. Yeah, and that's funny, because I even played the Avatar Pandora game that they made, Motive, and even was it Motive? Or am I thinking of someone else? Okay, I don't want to think that much, but anyway, that Avatar game was actually good too. It just wasn't what I wanted. I didn't really feel like exploring the jungle, shooting arrows, but otherwise it was cool. So, okay, the other. Yeah, I want to say it's not Motive. I don't know why it's what is, I'm just going to do this, guys. Division 2 developer. Massive. I knew there was an M in there somewhere. Yeah, Massive. Massive is a good developer. Motive is making a Star Wars game, but it's for EA. Okay, yeah, the first time I heard of Massive was a strategy game, World in Conflict, when it first came out, 2007. I remember me and my friends, we went to the store, we each bought a copy to play multiplayer, and I didn't really like it because it wasn't a base building RTS. It was more of, here's the battle map, and then click where you want your units to come in and then have them fight. And I was like, I kind of want resource management, and I mean, there was a little bit of that stuff, but anyway, I got sidetracked. And it's not that article. It's a different article. Okay, so August 30th, the other game that's coming out around that time that they don't have listed out here because it's not a big deal, really, to the mainstream, this is Rolling Stone, is that Gundam Breaker 4. I want to say Gunpla Warfare. No, Gundam Breaker 4. I'm excited to play that, too. So that could be a busy weekend. Star Wars Outlaws and Gundam Breaker 4, but it's cool. Both those games are very different, so it'd be fun going back and forth. I do love having multiple games to play because I tend to not spend a lot of time when I play games. I could spend 2 hours straight playing a game, but I usually don't. Usually about an hour, and then I take a little break, and then sometimes I'll play another game, and if I have nothing else going on, then I'll go back. I tend to break it up like that. So yeah, Gundam Breaker 4, Star Wars Outlaws. I like how light it seems, but you never know. This is Rolling Stone. There could be a bunch of indie games that they announce that are going to be dropping. But I kind of like that it's light because I really want to spend my time with Elden Ring. Let's see. This other interesting one, Sega veterans form publisher agency Hybrid. So they say Sega veterans, but then I see these young dudes that are not Japanese, and I'm like, well, but no, I'm joking because I did some research recently, and as much as it seems like Sega is a Japanese shop, historically, even before the Genesis days, there was a lot of American. I don't want to say it would be influenced, but more of American and Japanese heads together to like build those early systems to compete with the NES. It was very interesting reading all that. How it's like American designers of Sega had a lot of say into. I mean, especially Sonic 2, the way Sonic rolled out on the Sega Genesis, that was kind of an American thing. And then it even got to a point where Sega of Japan wanted to pull back and kind of take it in themselves. And there was that, and then Sony not allowing Sega Dreamcast games to be sold in places where PlayStation games or 2 games are sold. And there's a lot of unfortunate things that occurred that made Sega have their downfall. It has really nothing related to this, but it's just these seem like more recent dudes. Although that's the thing, Sega has been doing great even after Dreamcast. Like they were smart to get like Relic, for instance, and publish Relic games. So it's cool that, in the aftermath of all these closures and layoffs, that we have people coming together that have the skill sets that can kind of help champion indie developers. So that's good news. That's good news. All right, let's jump into some other news. Let me refresh because I think it's been a while since feed loaded. Okay. PlayStation exec predicts developers' focus will shift from graphics to immersive narratives. That makes no sense. Although this could be what they were talking about at that Sony conference yesterday. There was an idea to shift from graphics needing to be the thing, but it's not necessarily an immersive narrative that people are looking for. They're looking for immersive gameplay. I mean, they already do immersive narratives, right? Like Last of Us and all that, but we'll see. We'll see what they mean by that. It could be corpse speak. Let's see. Atari acquires Intellivision brand and games. Huh. That seems to make sense. I feel like those older consoles and games, that kind of world, could be combined into one. That seems pretty cool. Let's see. Okay, so that gives Atari over 200 games. Interesting. Details on the games are not shared, but Intellivision LLC will continue to develop the Amico games console separately with a license from Atari to distribute games on the platform. Is the Amico still happening? I did not think so. I thought that was, unless this is like part of that. Maybe that is, so maybe that's what happened here. Maybe there's more information on that, but the Amico was something that was supposed to get off the ground, and then it didn't. Although it's like saying you could buy this, but this might be something different. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't look too deep into it, but I could see that if there's trouble getting this Amico off the ground, which looked cool. It looked cool. The idea of different types of these controllers to have, I think that can like change the gaming experience, and not like. It's almost like marrying classic gaming with more interesting controls, I guess. Anyway, so this, pre-orders. I think that's what the... so, interesting. So you can just reserve it. And what I'm getting at is, apparently this didn't work out, or it's been delayed for so long, people are thinking, is this a scam? But if Atari's stepping in, I wonder if they see this as a way to create a console, maybe. And collecting that many library of games, that's actually pretty good. I'd be curious to see what comes of this, because the Amico does look cool. Wow, so it's going to be $339 with 2 controllers. Because I will say, if you look at this compared to like a Switch or something, it's like, this looks like a different market. To me, this seems like something you have in your living room for guests. you know, or for family to play some fun games. That's how I see it more than like a traditional console. Let's see. Neil Druckmann says new Naughty Dog title could redefine mainstream perceptions of gaming. I don't. What does that mean? Could redefine mainstream? Because I think the mainstream perception of gaming has completely changed from what we've seen before, and I think the mainstream generally accepts gaming and even sees it as some games are like movies, some games are like Call of Duty. But you know, he's a hype man. Activision has officially confirmed Black Ops 6 is this year's Call of Duty. Okay. Let's see, anything interesting about that? So they're just calling it Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So that's the official title. Okay. The same image of a vandalized Mount Rushmore that is advertised in USA Today also appears in the video. What? Okay, that's interesting stuff. So this is just a sort of an advertisement. Is this something that actually happened? I don't know. If so, I've been out of the loop. Let's see. Oh, we'll have a 6 instead of a VI. Okay. Okay, so here we go. The Xbox Game Showcase, the first to include games across Activision Blizzard, Bethesda, and Xbox Game Studios, will be live streamed on June 9th. It will be followed by a mystery product showcase where it's expected that this year's Call of Duty game will be fully unveiled. Well, it will be interesting to see. Let me jump to chat real quick because I've noticed a lot of chat going on. From Midnight Hatter, playing RTS should be required in public school to teach personal finance resource management. That is a great idea, actually. That's a good way to introduce these concepts early on. Huh. Let's see. Dedicated tubers have been thriving over formal outlets for a while, especially if they have a bit of genre focus. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what it comes to. You know, you either got to have the personality, the group of personalities, or you have informative niches in like a type of gaming. Yeah. Let's see. Final Fantasy 14 is so big they don't need to worry. Yeah, that's true. Okay, Friday the game died because of the Jason rights dispute lawsuit, actually. Wow, really? I didn't know that. And that's interesting because people really liked that game. That's kind of... I wish the G Generation games got Western physical release, but I'm hyped for GB4. Hey, good shout out on the G Generation, because that's another example of strategy that seems to be popular. Yeah, we're going to get that new one on mobile soon. Soon, yeah, sometime. I don't know when. And then Sega corporate screwed with the formula and nearly tanked the ship. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting, that whole ordeal with Sega. So fascinating. It was like, yeah, Sega Japan, Sega America, they were like clashing, and yeah, it's too bad. I think if they were to come together, they would have been able to not overtake, but I guess fight back Sony trying to stop them from being relevant, which again is wrong. I so want to make a video on this channel someday that's going to be called How Sony Killed Sega, because I think that's really what happened. As much as, you know, people are able to burn games on a Dreamcast, there was a lot that Sony did to like really screw them up, especially at that time when gaming was way more mainstream and people were able to go into stores and pick up stuff. All you would see is PlayStation 2 because it was mandated by Sony. Yeah, I remember. I forget what store I was in back during that time. It might have been a Circuit City or another adjacent electronics store. So this was like 99, 2000. I went in and I saw where their video games were. There's a bunch of PS2 games. Like, hey, do you have any Dreamcast games? And the guy's like, no, actually, we don't carry games. It's just that Sony says if we carry any of their hardware, we have to also carry their software. And I was like, oh, really? That's fascinating. But yeah. Okay. Now I want to go back to a little bit more news. I just wanted to grab the chat because there's some good stuff going on in there. Ooh, Fragbite declares bankruptcy for developer Fall Damage Studio. So never heard of any of these. But yeah, I guess it's happening again. Details on PlayStation's Concord to be revealed in the next 2 weeks, it's claimed. So I'm very interested to see, what this Concord could be all about. Is this the next thing that Sony is banking on? So, yeah, let's see. Let's see. Oh, and so that's what the logo looks like for Black Ops 6. Pretty cool. Futuristic PlayStation controller shown as Sony presents its creative entertainment vision. Sony is really good at creating these concepts that never take off, but at least it's they go so extreme that some of those elements could then be integrated. I think there was a PS3 controller that looks so weird, but now if we look at the PS5 controller, these things take on all. So what's interesting, if you look at this would not be at all what would be made, but there's some interesting things going on here. It looks like, where the thumbs would go, it looks like a trackpad is what I'm trying to say. How much do we prefer trackpads versus tactile feels? It could change, like I was saying, how as time goes, we tend to just adopt. I think the iPhone's a good example. I remember when the iPhone first came out, people, even myself, was like, there's no way, I need the buttons. And even me, I needed the clicky buttons. And then, over time, that just went away. Okay. Embracer Group full year sales rise to $3.9 billion, but $1.5 billion debt remains. It's too bad. So Embracer CFO and Deputy CEO stepping down. Okay. Yeah, that could be because they can't get paid. Maybe. I don't know. Report Sony planning mobile games platform, which makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I heard this news yesterday. I might have even talked about it yesterday, I forget. But basically the idea is they want to start having mobile games. I mean, they're looking, if you look at Microsoft, a lot of people forget, Microsoft has now this huge mobile game portfolio that's probably going to be helping them out. Sony can do that, so they might as well. And I brought up, I was thinking about something yesterday because on the PSP, it was really neat. They had this whole PSP minis thing where it's smaller games, smaller devs can design these PSP minis. And that's an excellent thing they could do here. Bring that back. Bring those games back, and maybe and they almost talked about this last night during their corporate strategy meeting, how part of their strategy moving forward is enabling creators to create, having the tools to create. They even talked about a new animation software for companies to make anime that they're going to be releasing. And I found that interesting, and I think that could be the same thing with game development. So if if you look at Unreal, with Epic with the Unreal Engine, it's why doesn't Sony do something like that? And it's why doesn't Microsoft do something like that? It's just more Sony, I think, kind of already has a lot more creation tools in place that they could utilize. So it'd be interesting. I wonder, do these big platform holders get to a point where they have their own game development platform? I'm not talking about in terms of this is the hardware develop on it, creating a more streamlined experience that even me could plug in my PlayStation. Now I'm in this fun developer mode that I can make a game and then publish it if possible. Maybe it has to go through checks or something, but I think that'd be pretty neat. All right, how to unlock DedSec and XDefiant. That's pretty, again, XDefiant is a very Call of Duty-like FPS, and I wouldn't even call it a hero shooter, I think, because it has specials that characters have, but so does Call of Duty. The last 5 Call of Duties have had it where you can have a special that a character can use, and you can even change it, like a cooldown. And that's basically what this is. So it's really just a Call of Duty within the Ubisoft universe. I hope it works out. I don't know if it's my thing, but all right. And then I think yesterday we talked a little bit about the gameplay footage of Valve's next title. So a very interesting thing that happened yesterday is, I wonder if I can find the tweet. So basically someone tweeted Microsoft looking to purchase Valve for $18 billion. And then someone was making the claim they're worth way more than that. This is fake news. And it's funny, this guy that says this is not a gamer at all. Even the article saying streamer claims this. This guy's not a streamer. This guy is what he has a background in this stuff. He is a lawyer he studies law for something specific that has to do with money management or whatever. And it's just, I guess, with the people he worked with, there was some notes passed around saying something about Microsoft's in talks to buy Valve for $18 billion. And to be honest, I'm not surprised. Could that really happen? I think anything could happen now. I really do. Anything could happen, and Microsoft would want to do that because then they would have their storefront on PC and then on Xbox. It's interesting because it's already there. Like Valve is trying to, and they have it where you can play their games on Linux through Proton. I just find it interesting how Valve is all in, not all in, but they're like, kind of all in on Windows. That's where their main thing is, but they're trying to do this Linux stuff here and branching off to the handheld. Is that another, like Microsoft gets Valve, then they get the handheld technology. Steam Deck can be an Xbox deck. I don't know. I'm just saying a bunch of crazy stuff. But anyway, that's about it for today. And so JamKillX says, remember the PS8 is going to be nanomachines in the brain. The PS2 ad said so. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. I mean, but I actually think probably something like that's going to happen once we figure out how to properly interface non-invasively to our neurons. Yeah, we'll be feeding the games right into our brain. So anyway, everyone, thank you for joining. That was a lot of fun. Not too much crazy stuff going on. It's the end of the week. And that's it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day. Peace out.